Hello and good afternoon. I'm Holly reporting to you live from 𝐊𝐶 studio in Sydney, where it's lunchtime, which means it is time for the Midmarket Pulse. In today's show, we'll be taking a look at the overall Australian share market performance by the mid-session trade, and then exploring the biggest winners and losers of the day, like Champion Iron, Lynas Rare Earths, Whitehaven Coal, Janus Henderson, 𝐧𝐞, APA, and others. Then lastly, in our final segment, we'll be focusing on the stocks that grabbed headlines today, like AusNet Services, APA Group, NAB Holdings, Cimic, and many more. So without further ado, let's get into it. Well, Australian shares reversed most of the early losses by the mid-session, led by buying in energy and materials stocks. The market sentiment was also lifted after data showed that consumer sentiment edged higher last week amid a falling in COVID-19 cases in New South Wales, as well as Victoria's plan for easing curbs. That being said, the sell-off in global markets on China worries, as well as the US Federal Reserve meeting kept investors on edge. And the benchmark index ASX 200 was trading 0.17% lower by lunch. The index opened lower for the third straight session today, tracking weak cues from Wall Street, which finished lower overnight ahead of the highly anticipated Federal Reserve meeting. All this as the Dow Jones plunged 1.78%, while the S&P 500 dipped 1.70% similarly. And the Nasdaq Composite ended the session 2.19% lower. The market witnessed cautious trading ahead of the two-day US Fed meeting, which is stated to start today. Central bank officials will announce the monetary policy statement on Wednesday, which will give more clarity as to when the central bank will start tapering its $120 billion monthly bond buying program. Market experts expect the scaling back of economic stimulus to begin in November or December. Moving on now to the sectoral front, 6 of the 11 indices were trading in the red zone, as the materials and energy sector were among the top gainers, pairing previous session losses, despite a fall in commodity prices. The price of iron ore slipped below the $100 level for the first time in 14 months, as worries about the anticipated default of Chinese developer Evergrande added downward pressure on the commodities. Prices fell 8.8% overnight. And meanwhile, utility sector was the worst performer with a 1.5% loss, followed by financials, which dropped well over 1%. Now let's move on to news on the COVID-19 front, as the state of New South Wales reported just over 1,000 new local coronavirus cases and 10 deaths in the past 24 hours. Victorian cases rose to 603, while they also reported 1 death as well. And meanwhile, in Byron, Kempsey and Tweed LGAs will go back into lockdown from 5 p.m. today after a COVID case from Sydney was infectious in several communities on the New South Wales North Coast. Now for a look at the top gainers and losers by the mid-session trade, while the top laggard on the ASX pack was asset management firm Janus Henderson Group, which dropped a staggering 4.2%. Some of the other notable losers were buy now, pay later firm 𝐧𝐞, natural gas and energy business APA Group, fintech group Netwealth, and investment manager Magellan Financial. Now for a look on the gainers side, well, iron ore explorer Champion Iron topped the gainers chart by rising a very impressive 5.3%. The stock was the worst performer on Monday, falling nearly 9% due to a fall in iron ore prices. And some of the other top performers were Argo firm Nufarm, resource company Lynas Rare Earths, coal miner Whitehaven Coal, and gold miner Chalice Mining. Well, with that said, it's time for a very short break, but stay tuned because I'll be right back on 𝐊𝐶 TV.
Hi, I'm Sage, and get ready to take the crypto ride with me on 𝐊𝐶 TV. Watch the crypto buzz every Tuesday and join the excitement at 𝐊𝐶 TV. From bitcoins to NFTs to Dogecoin and DeFi, we have updates about everything around these digital currencies. Understand the investing rationale and the risks involved In the Space with me, Sage, on Crypto Buzz. Keep watching 𝐾ALKINE TV.
Welcome back, Holly this side, and you're watching the mid-market commentary in the Midmarket Pulse. Live from Sydney at the moment, and let's have a look now at the stocks that grabbed headlines today. Well, shares of gas pipeline business APA Group slipped 3.5% after the company proposed $9.9 billion in a bid to acquire energy company AusNet Services. The company offered a bid worth $2.60 a share to acquire Aussie energy company, followed by an offer from Brookfield Asset Management on Monday. Meanwhile, shares of AusNet Services entered a trading halt today pending an announcement from the company, which is in the grip of a bidding war. On Monday, the company's shares gained as much as 20% and hit a 52-week high after it received a takeover bid from Brookfield Asset Management, worth $2.50 a share. Next up, shares of Australian healthcare fund NIB Holdings fell nearly 1%, even after receiving regulatory nods to form a buying group with insurer Honeysuckle Health. The consumer watchdog Australian Competition and Consumer Commission has authorised Honeysuckle Health and NIB to form and operate a health service buying group. The authorisation has been granted with condition that major insurers Medibank, Bupa, HCF and HBF in Western Australia will not be allowed to join in the buying group. And moving on, shares of energy engineering-led construction group Cimic dropped nearly 2% despite securing a contract. The group's CBP contractor has been selected in a joint venture as the partner to work with the Australian Rail Track Corporation for the delivery of Inland Rail Southern Civil Works program. The government-owned Australian Rail Track Corporation selected the ACA-CBP joint venture, a 50-50 joint venture formed by CPB Contractors and Acciona Construction Australia for the planning and development of civil works between Narrabeen and Narromine in northern New South Wales. This contract covers approximately 306 kilometres of new track formations comprising the bulk of earthworks, drainage, bridge, viaduct structures, materials and logistics management. Next up, shares of Woolworths traded marginally lower amid a report that the retailer is mulling the sale of the Australian dollar bond linked to its sustainability program with 6 and 10-year maturities. Australia's largest food retailer will start speaking to investors on the 22nd of September in meetings arranged by Citi, Commonwealth Bank, HSBC and Westpac. Woolies is rated Baa2 by Moody's and BBB by S&P. Moving on now, the toll road operator Atlas Arteria has declared a 15.50 share unfranked dividend for the last 6 months of the year. It set an ex-dividend date of September the 24th and distribution will be paid on the 5th of October. Following the announcement, shares of Atlas rose over 1%. And next up, shares of RPM Global Holdings dropped 2.5% following acquisition news. The mining software solutions provider has signed a deal to acquire 100% stake in the Perth-based Blueprint Environmental Strategies. Blueprint is an environmental, social and government services company, and the acquisition will help RPM to grow its mining-focused ESG team and capabilities to address an increasing demand for ESG-related services and tech solutions from the mining industry. And lastly, mining services provider Highfield Resources has inked a purchase contract for important components of its Muga mine plant. In an ASX update, the company said it had signed a purchase contract with Wire Materials to finalise the pre-construction activities at its flagship mine. This contract represents an important milestone as Highfield continues to progress development at Muga. Well, that's just about all in the Mid-Market Pulse, but keep watching at 𝐾ALKINE TV for more trending live market updates. Holly Shields signing off.